Hey everyone, welcome to LimitLess Radiocast, episode 66. Hanging out with our good friend Tim Stinson today, a BJJ purple belt out of East Coast Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Canton, Ohio, trained by our very own Chad Coon. We get into some awesome stuff in this episode, so sit back, relax, throw those headphones on, and enjoy the show. All right, everybody, check it out. Chad and I have the opportunity to team up with Hoist IV Level Hydration out of Cincinnati, Ohio. This is an amazing drink that each and every one of you need to try. LimitLess 10 at checkout. Check this out. 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks. Half the sugar of traditional sports drinks. No high fructose corn syrup. No artificial preservatives, sweeteners, or dyes. It's BPA-free, kosher, made in the USA. 6 delicious flavors. This stuff is so good, it has been selected by the U.S. military and authorized by the Department of Defense of the drink to go to for them. There's science behind this, guys. DrinkHoist.com. You can use it for exercise, heat, sun relief, headaches and muscle cramps, wellness and recovery, even those wild nights of overindulgence. Hoist IV Level Hydration is the drink to go to. I want everybody out there to go out there and check them out. Remember, LimitLess 10 at checkout to get a discount. Check them out. DrinkHoist.com. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Hope all you guys are doing well out there. So today, Chad and I are hanging out with a great teammate at East Coast Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Mr. Tim Stinson. He is a now newly promoted this week purple belts, and he is also a professional fireman and by day. Let's say Juju BJJ practitioner by night, training on the regular. And it's so great to have you, Tim, hang out with Chad and I. We appreciate you very much. Thanks
for having me.
For sure, dude. And how'd it feel after getting that purple belt this week?
Dude, it's a wild experience, right? Like you always, I don't know. And there's never any words like you could do any justice. Like when you actually do get promoted, it's just, it feels great and it's humbling all at the same time because like you got to look around the room and everybody there has played a part. It doesn't matter if it's the white belt that you rolled with 3 times, but you might have picked something up from you and you don't even realize that you remember at that point. Sure. He might have done something weird and you're like, oh, how do I handle that? But you look around the room and everybody else that has sacrificed to get to their rank or their belt level, they feel the same way that you have. You got to reflect on the room and really thank the people that are there. Jiu-jitsu is not a solo sport. You can drill by yourself all you want. It might help, but unless you have somebody else there that's pushing you, you know what I mean? You can only go so far by yourself,
There's actually that old. Go ahead, Tim.
There's that old saying, I forget who said it, but if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's kind of what I feel like about jiu-jitsu.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's really good because it's true. There's 100% truth to it. Like you can't do this by yourself and it after being in it, even early on, if you start to pick that up in your brain, training and going there, you're like, there's no way I could do this without, without a great partner, great coaches and great atmosphere around me. It's just not going to happen. It's crazy. What were you going to say, Chad?
And I think that's probably why Timmy started too, because your friends were doing it. Right. They were hanging out. It was just another place to go hang out with them for a while,
Wow, yeah. I know back in the day, we used to stay in the parking lot until like 11 o'clock at night.
Oh, that's what I told Jay and Dan. I said, you guys think you stay here late.
Yeah.
You weren't here when Mr. Hyman was here just talking and you couldn't leave him,
We didn't even change until like 9:45. Sweaty gi pants.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to be the first one to get up and actually change their pants. So you kind of lean down the aisle. Like, I guess I'll start this.
I guess, yeah. Depending on what story you were in the middle of with Mr. Hyman telling it, you couldn't leave it.
Yeah, you never wanted to get up during a story. You always had to wait for the end and hope that he took like a long pause to catch his breath.
Yeah.
That's awesome. When, who convinced you?
It was Shannon. Me and Shannon had some education classes together, and I had known him through wrestling, like all through youth and stuff. And I really had known Feller better than I knew Shannon, because Feller played baseball as well back when we were kids. And so, like, I played in Marlboro's little league, and so we played against Greentown, and Feller was on the Greentown teams. And then I noticed him from wrestling, whatever. So I knew Shannon was doing, just because of Instagram, even though it was like way smaller back then, I knew that he was doing jiu-jitsu, and one day in class, I just asked him about it, and I'd been interested in it. And he's like, well, just come out. You know, like baseball had seemed to be fizzling out for me at that point. And I was like, I need to do something. Like, this can't be where my athletic career ends. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be, I didn't want to be like the Wednesday night hero in a beer league softball team. Like that that never fit. Like,
sure.
I don't know.
That didn't appeal
my
to
kind
you,
of agenda.
you know? Right.
Yeah. I just, I played here with the guys in the fire department, and it was fun, but like, I had my time in the sun. You know, it was time to move on to something else. And Shannon's like, come on in. He's like, try class. And I remember my first day, I came in and Dom gave Shannon shit because he did MMA fit that day. And Dom goes, you never do MMA fit. What are you trying to do? Impress Tim or something? He's like, you do MMA fit all the time. And so we did MMA fit, and then we did class, and I rode with Pete. And Pete had a triangle on me, which I know is no shocker because he still gets everybody in triangles, but I picked him up. And Shannon must have been rolling near vicinity because he's like, you're not allowed to slam, which I knew that, like, I wasn't going to put Pete into the map, but I didn't know what else to do than to stand up with him.
To stand up.
Yeah, I was like, I'd just seen it in UFC, you know? I was like, oh, this is how you do this. It wasn't the right. I still ended up tapping, but whatever.
Hey, you still picked him up. Tap the battle.
Yeah, so that's really how it started. And then I was pretty consistent, usually through the winter. And then when baseball season would start back up, I'd obviously have to go focus on baseball. So then it'd be like 3 months or so, I didn't really even come in. And then summertime, I was back in after that. Because after my senior year, I didn't even play summer ball. I was like, what's the point? You know?
Because you weren't going to pursue it anymore.
I had a kickboxing fight before the senior year of baseball up at Griffin Roll. Is that where it was at?
No, was that Vanyo or something? Yeah.
Oh, I did not know this. I didn't know. I thought you just did MMA. I didn't know.
It was a smoker.
Yeah. They brought some kid that was like 6'4". I was against another kid that was like my size. Like, he couldn't make it. So we brought this kid. And I was like, yeah, sure. Whatever.
Great.
Yeah.
And then he head kicked me like within the first 45 seconds. I was like, oh, that's different.
You recall it? Do you remember it like pretty vividly?
I do, because I got hit in the head with a baseball bat. Felt like that was like the one time that like I heard the bells go off in my head, and I just bit down a mouthpiece and just tried to land just howitzer right hands. Like that's all I knew to throw was just bomb right hands.
Sure.
I didn't. Yeah, he ended up beating me, I think, but that was the longest 6 minutes of my life that I can recall.
That wasn't your first time getting your bell rung, though, because you played sports, so you knew.
Yeah, no, but that was the first time that I had been fighting that I got my bell rung.
Sure.
Like, that was the first time I'd ever really gone like live with another person.
Sure.
You know, because I think that we did a good job back in the day of not sparring incredibly hard. Like, yes. I thought we definitely titrated the pace to make it safe, but also learn. So that was the first time it was like full go.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a hard thing to do. And I think, credit to Mr. Hyman, he would never let anybody go too hard. Right.
Yeah.
That to this day, if I see the guys kind of even mixing it up, I'm like, put your headgear on. I know you're seasoned and I know but things can happen quick, man.
Yeah.
That's the thing too. And we talked about it on the show is that, training is different now versus before. Like you can get rounds in, but it's like, are they 100% like it would be if you stepped into a competition tomorrow? You know what I'm saying? Like you're getting the training in, but like guys today from MMA fighting to all platforms, all the way down to BJJ competitions and grappling and wrestling, the training is so much different now versus what it was even when you started, Tim. I mean, you were young, you came into that old school age where you did still train hard versus like now it's like, hey, you can train hard, but smart.
Yeah. And like, there's so much science behind it, right? Like I weightlifted and I programmed my own stuff for like powerlifting and stuff like that. And the scientific method like reigns true, right? Like you always, you want the right amount of fatigue, the right amount of stressor loads and all that stuff to get the adaptations, but you don't want to fry yourself because that's when injuries come. Yep. And like Wiltsy might be right. We got to start looking at BJJ training from a scientific standpoint because the injuries are going to happen if you always go 100%. Like like the big powerlifters, they might max out once or twice a year. You know what I mean? And that's a whole different stress load than BJJ is. But if you go 100% like sparring rounds on a Monday, you probably should not go hard again until Saturday. Like you can drill at 100%, but like you're not attacking each other at 100%. You know what I mean? Because that fatigue that you gain that you never offload, it's still going to be in your system, and that's when you tweak a knee, or that's when you pull a hamstring or something stupid that you probably could have avoided if you'd just taken a step back and been like, I guess I probably didn't need to go 100% every day this week.
And I think that's such a hard thing to gauge too. What's 100%?
Sure.
Depending on who you're rolling with, right? It's going to be really different. Yeah, absolutely.
And you might be on a light day and you'll get a white belt or a blue belt or any belt. It doesn't matter, that it's their heavy day. You know what I mean? And then you're coasting, and your next match, that guy's going 100%. You're like, I don't want to, fuck, I can't let them put it on me like that. You know what I mean?
Right. Then you're coming. Right. Exactly.
Because I guess that is the blessing and the curse of jiu-jitsu, because we always say we're the only sport that can go 100% and still kind of be safe, right?
Yeah, right.
Not like, kickboxing, obviously boxing and all that, you can't go 100%. You're going to be drooling.
Right. That or knocked out. Even with headgear on.
And most of your pro fighters still, like we've lived, Dustin Poirier, I know a lot of those guys don't even spar anymore.
Right.
At all.
Again, once you reach that level, what is a training partner going to give you that you haven't already seen?
Very true.
In the actual arena that you're preparing for. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Your reps are there. Your muscle memory's there.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
Becomes reaction.
This past week, Chad and I were talking about, getting possibility of some limitless future tournaments at a specific location in Akron, Ohio. So we were looking at some mats, like some, rollaway mats and stuff. And I was like, we need, Chad, obviously he always tells me, because I don't know anything about this, like that world is really good for him and he knows all that. Like, hey, do we need this size or what do we need? And I was like, hey, what about training mats? Like how big of a training mat? And he's like, you don't need that much. And I said, I guess people aren't really showing up and warming up.
Oh, you mean like a warm-up mat?
Yeah, like a warm-up mat, like to go, hey, I got to figure out this move right now or work on this move. It's like, it's too late. That's what I said. I was like, it's too late, right? Like,
you look at the big, like IBJJF doesn't have a warm-up area.
No.
You go find a hallway and run or whatever.
Oh, I did not know this. Okay, so they don't have a designated
area. A half hour before your weigh-ins, you're trying to warm up in a hallway with like 80 other people.
Yeah.
And then they call your weight to the bullpen. You step on the scale and you just wait to be called to a mat. So once you're in the bullpen weighed in, you don't get to go back out and warm up. So you have to try to guess when you're going to get called. Warm up, go weigh in, and then wait. You could wait. Like when I did the Chicago Open, I waited for like 40 minutes in the bullpen. Like I had a sweat going, weighed in, and then got cold. Just man. This is stupid, because there's not a lot of room to move around in the bullpen either.
Sure.
Like, you got to think that there's 8 mats going, and everybody on those 8 mats is all waiting to be called. So it's not like you jump rope in there.
Now theirs is better. The IBJJF, it's better than some others, correct?
Right. I mean, as far as
platforms, promotions, whatever.
I mean, as far as getting in and getting out, usually it's pretty good. When you're going to be up roughly. Sometimes it'll run over or early, but it's a pretty good machine they have going, How
many times have you got to compete, Tim, on the mat in BJJ?
Just at the Grappling Industries and the Chicago Open.
Okay.
Yeah, because the time prior to the Chicago Open as a white, I got injured, and then getting ready for my first MMA fight, I tore my LCL. So maybe I was training too hard to the injuries.
Now that you say
it, Johnny Crest, the week before, like I think it was Sunday, we were at Open Mat, and we were leaving for Chicago on Thursday. We got to a scramble, and he was trying to take my back, and like I stood up just do like a wrestling escape, and he jumped like real high on my back, and I folded over, and my left hamstring just went. Like and Hyman pulled me out of that one because I was still gonna go.
Yeah,
I was like,
fuck it, of course whatever.
You were. I was 20 at that time. I was like 22 or 23.
When we're 22, we do everything and anything, no matter what anyone tells us.
And he's like, Tim, why? Like you're going to have a job here before too long. And like, what if you can't go do that job? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know if I'm going to get hired at Canton, you know? And he's like, who cares? Who cares about the Chicago Open? And I was like, well, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
I guess you're right. So he's like, yeah, I'm going to pull you out. And I got a little black and blue on the backside. It was probably just like, a bad strain or sprain or whatever the worst one is. I don't think it actually could work, but it was messed up for about a month or so.
Yeah, imagine if you would have went and competed. Look how bad it could have gotten, depending on what happened to that leg.
Then, and I don't know if that dude was like clairvoyant or what, but months later I ended up getting hired at Canton. So
I hear a lot of stories about Hyman like this. Very clairvoyant is a good word to say. Like from Chad and Dom and Pete and everyone in the gym that's been able to have interaction with them. I was telling Chad a couple of weeks ago, I was at one of my great uncles has a baseball organization in Canton called the Canton Spikes, and another uncle was there and he knew Hyman, and he was like, "Oh, how's the East Coast stuff going?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's great." And he's like, "Hey," he's like, I used to do kickboxing way back in the day with Mr. Hyman when it first started. And I was like, wow, like I was completely, literally, and he actually saw Mr. Hyman have a little conversation with an individual at a certain lake. And so it was funny because Chad's like, "It's true. I heard that story." And I was like, is my uncle like just saying this? Like he's he's an old Vietnam vet. And I'm like, come on, like, is this real? And then I asked Chad and he said, yeah, it was true. And I was like, wow, Mr. Hyman, it's kind of funny, like that small world, but he's made like a huge impact on so many people.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Like starting East Coast way back in the day. And Chad and I talk personally about it. It's like amazing to see how much it's grown, and for you guys to be around him and to see that, it's pretty cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Actually. Chad. Well, I thought you were going to say something.
Well, I was going to ask Timmy. So, being gone. So people that don't know, you were gone for what, 6 years?
About 5. Because I met Nicola in 17. Yeah. So once I met her, I had 5 years.
So about 5 years. So I like to always, because obviously I've been there the whole time. What's the biggest thing you think has changed since you were gone and came back?
That's a tough question.
That's on the spot.
Well, I just, you always like to get that other look, because I feel like there's a lot of things change. We do a lot of things better, obviously, now.
I think we definitely do a lot of things better. I think that there's a lot more cohesiveness throughout the entire gym.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. For
sure. Before I left, there was a lot going on. There was just a lot. And it was bad timing of a lot of the stuff that happened.
For sure.
And, there's just much more cohesiveness. I don't think that there's any. Back then, I feel like there's a lot of questionings of the instructors that was going on while back in 2017, late 2016. Yeah,
for sure.
Like there was a lot, not even just from the top down, but from the bottom up. There was a lot of, why are we doing this? This is never going to work.
Right.
Whatever. And now that's not even close to being commonplace where it used to be.
Yeah.
I felt like the cliques at the gym back then were much more toxic than they are now.
Right.
I don't know how to PC to
I gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I definitely think that the hierarchy of things now is much healthier than it was in 2016, 2017.
Right.
The attitudes towards I love coming to the gym. I mean, there's a reason why that I want to be there every day that I can be there.
Right.
The vibes at the gym I wish the gym that I walked into as a 22-year-old was the gym that I walked into as a 31-year-old.
For sure.
I think things would have been a lot different. I want to compete. But like now my circumstance for the next 6 months, I'm not going to be able to.
Right.
Sure. Right.
Opados, every minute of class is mandatory. So if you're not there, they charge you for the hours that you owe for the instructor to come in and just teach you. Wow. Because if you don't have those hours or minutes, you don't get to graduate. Like, man, for whatever reason, I mean, you cannot miss a single minute. So like, I don't know. This brings up another question. Is like, well, what if I this? That's the reason my hand would be like, hey, can we pause for a minute so I can go take a leak? Or like,
right.
we're going to make that minute up.
Right.
Whatever.
That hall pass.
Just curious. And like my profession that I fell into, I mean, grace to God or whatever you believe in, but you know, I fell into my job at Canton, but I owe everything I got in life to that job I got at Canton. And so jiu-jitsu to me, I love it. I wish I could compete at the highest level, but I got shit to take care of. You know what I mean? I have a career that involves a lot of time investment. I got a career that requires me for the time being to stay as healthy as possible. I mean, I'm no good to Canton Fire if I can't walk on my own 2 legs. No good to Canton Fire if I can't put my hands in the fire gloves or hold up a hose or use a tool. Like, I'm no good to them. And they gave me a chance at a young age. So I feel like they've earned the loyalty for me to be like, hey, this is the priority. All this other stuff, it's just really fun. And it's a huge part of my life, but it has to be for fun and just a hobby. At least for the time being. I think once I get out of school, I'll be able to do more next year, because Nicola's on board for me to try to make her run at Worlds as a master. Yeah. And so that's the goal. I love to
and being a purple belt too opens you up with a whole lot more super fights that we can get too.
Right.
You know.
So that's the ultimate goal for that. And one day I'd love to teach jiu-jitsu, you know.
Absolutely.
Because everybody in jiu-jitsu loves it, right? Like nobody in the gym, because they're on a voluntary basis. Nobody comes in and is like, man, I hate jiu-jitsu.
Right.
You're paying to come here.
You're paying to come.
So everybody that's there for that class and has the same love for the sport that we have. And that's what makes it really cool and rewarding to teach, because like somebody's parent isn't forcing this kid to learn how to wrestle or to play baseball or whatever. They're there by their own convictions, and like they want to be a sponge. That's a cool opportunity to be able to teach people that are there willing to learn.
That's what makes our gym so awesome too, because of that. Because there's
absolutely.
You know, for me, you know, and I've only been there, you know, a little over 2 years, whatever. But that's the thing. Like, it's like, oh, it's a sponge. Like, I want to be a sponge, and I want to, like with you, Tim, like I'd gather, I ask you questions or whatever. Just the other day, asking you a question, like a simple shoulder crushing question. It was just like, I wanted to know. Chad, the same thing. And I asked all this, but the atmosphere that's been created now at East Coast is that, like, you want to be there. It's infectious. Like, you want to be hanging out with people and just talking and rolling and having a great time.
And not that you didn't want to do that before. Like, we still hung out and we were still really close, but it was like, if something was shown to the class, then questions were directed to somebody else who didn't show technique.
Right. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Like a lot of toe steps. Like a lot of toes were stepped on.
For sure.
Hey man, let's just trust the process. I don't know.
Yeah.
Call me old fashioned.
Sure.
Call me old fashioned.
Call me old fashioned. No, I'm with you too. You know, because the age, you know, and as I've gone and I've never complained about anything that was taught, after doing it for a while, I'm like, I suck at this. I should suck at this, or other stuff I've caught on very fast, like a move that week or that week done. But I'm still embrace it. It's like, look, this is part of jiu-jitsu.
So I just seen a clip on Instagram. It was Galval and Leandro Lowe. They were on a podcast together. I don't know who was hosting.
Yep. It's Gavo's. It's Gavo's podcast. He actually.
So he was asked by somebody else how he stays relevant, because he's been playing the same game since 2005. Mm-hmm. And Leandro has been playing the same game since about 2005. Whatever, he's 8-time world champion. I don't know all the athletes that Galval has, but it's up here. You know,
sure.
I mean, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah. And he's like, I train with the next. He's like, people want to win Masters World Championships, but they don't train with the new guys. He's like, that's fine, but you need to, because they have new games that you don't know, and they want to fight you, right? Because you're the old dog that has, especially those two. I mean, Jesus Christ,
get around forever,
guys on a daily basis. Yeah,
for sure.
And he's like, just because I'm not going to play there doesn't mean I shouldn't understand it. It's not saying that we're at the top. It's because we've continued to learn, and we've refined our game to fit the new game. We might not play the new games, but we know how to stop it and understand the positions.
Yeah.
And so it's just, you got to keep evolving.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, I just had that conversation with Jeremy Hughes the other day, and because I've been starting to run some worm guard and some different lapel stuff, and it's usually not what I do, but I don't want to get stale. It's too, I don't want to be that old. I don't want to be that older instructor saying, oh, that new stuff doesn't work. Right. Just because I don't like it, or because it's not street based or whatever. You know, I want to start doing it so you guys know it, and I know I want to know it because it's cool, right? If you can tie somebody up with their gi that we're allowed to grab, why wouldn't you?
Right.
You know, absolutely. And there's of course people that stall doing that too, but there's a lot of cool stuff out there.
There is.
You know,
I just saw, what was it today? I can't remember who it was. Something they called it the chair cruncher or something, but I was just like, yeah, no one's ever pulling that move in a match, but that's pretty cool. Like, because they had a person like literally like both their legs were wrapped and they were kind of beside him and they had like their head locked and they were like almost Ezekiel choking him from the side, but it was crazy. And I was like, what the, but it was just funny because I was like, you wouldn't have enough time to do all that. You couldn't reach to grab this foot and do this and do that, but it's like, that's cool. I still like it.
Cool. Yeah.
And that's the world that we live in. And I tell people, you know, like anyone that new comes in, I'm like, just embrace what you're doing. Just come back and keep it up and just keep focused on what you're doing. And trust me, everybody here is going to want you to be better. That's, you know, what I got from you right away, Tim. Like, it was like, you're athletic. I know that. But it wasn't like, hey, you're going to kill me. Like, it was like, no, you're going to do jujitsu and teach me at the same time. And that's what I want. And I've told people in the gym, I'm like, that's kind of how you have to embrace it. Like, if you're not liking certain things, you know.
Sure.
It's just,
and I wasn't that way.
You weren't that. It wasn't that way for you.
Everybody. No. I wrestled everybody.
Now, when I first started, that's what I did. When I first started, I was like, it was instantly like all the wrestling just came back to me like very fast. Not that I was ever like a super good wrestler, but I knew enough to where, you know, base wise or moving and getting to their back. The bad part is I would go right to the elbow with the hand around the belly. Like as soon as I got to the back and I was like, I don't know, this is not good. I don't know, but I feel very comfortable right here, you know, knee in the butt and break the elbow down, face into the mat. I was like, it's good. And then they would turn over and pull guard. And I was like, or go retain guard. And I'm like, oh, that's not good for me. Yes. And then Chad would be like, stand up, Terry, stand up. I'm like, okay. So now I do. Maybe too much.
No, never too much.
Never too much.
Learn. You mean, Tim and I talked, I think, I don't know if it was when you first came back or not, but you're like, I thought I knew how to pass guard when I trained before, and I really didn't know how to pass guard.
No.
But you thought you did, right? Because it worked or whatever.
Yeah, it did. Unfortunately.
But now you know how.
Now you know how.
Yeah, dude, the details matter. Like, that's what's crazy about jiu-jitsu is you could do a technique and get by it until
you can't.
It just you know, like rolling with Wilty, like every detail mattered. There wasn't one position that we were in that he didn't know exactly where he was at all times. Yeah, and like he just left zero space, none. It was like Velcro. Like his gi was Velcroed them on. Yeah, and that's what after we rolled, he talked to me. He's like, hey, just hone in on all the details. Like he's like, if you're drilling knee cuts and your knee doesn't land in the exact spot on the mat that you need it to land, that rep doesn't count.
It doesn't. Yeah.
And he's like, that's the kind of level of finite details you need to carry through. I'm like, Jesus, you know, and there's obvious levels to this.
Sure.
And then he did give the caveat, like you have to drill it to get the muscle memory of the actual move. You can break it down. So it kind of has like a reverse. You got to learn the whole and then reverse engineer it from the whole back to the start. And then do the details in step-by-step order from there.
Right.
Yeah, that's actually
we joke about Terry. Yeah, you joke about Terry being like Rain Man, but that's what it's about. Yeah. That's how Wilty does it. You know, like I mean, it's obsession.
You have to be.
That's a good word for it.
Yeah,
you have to be obsessed with doing anything.
I think we all think we're obsessed with jiu-jitsu, and there's levels to that too.
Sure. It's like anything you do in life, you know. It'd be it's like what we talked about a little bit, you know, like before the show, Tim, where, you know, we talked about, you know, tunnel vision, kind of, we joke about, oh, he's in tunnel vision, whatever, you know, I'll just see that play or whatever, that was straight tunnel vision. And, you know, being in your world, your profession of, you know, fighting fires and you know, let's be honest, saving people's lives, you have tunnel vision at first because you don't know what you're doing, and then it gets bigger.
Right.
And that tunnel vision, you know, if you learn to hone into that muscle memory and your senses and everything else around you, that tunnel vision end up growing and getting bigger. When you're a world-class athlete, as you know, Andrew is winning, you know, worlds, that's what he's done. And you can do the same thing. Even to this day, you know, you talk about training, you know, to your goals to go worlds next year. Well, it's the same thing. You're going to put in that same time and that same muscle memory. Like, oh, that roll with him, I went 100 times and did this, and my hand didn't land where it's supposed to land. And so I got to keep doing that type deal, you know.
You know, because he was like, once the competition gets so good, you're only going to have one chance to pass guard. You're only going to have one chance to get to position or one chance to sweep. He's like, if you missed the opportunity because you messed up a detail, then it was all the other shit was for nothing.
For nothing,
you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, that's and he's right? Because you see that's the echelon of what you want to win. If you're competing, obviously, you know, worlds is a big deal. It can change your life.
But like, if you fail your pass attempts against Tyne and Dalpra, you're not going to get another chance.
You're done.
Well, I was going to say, or just give a person an example, and it's like, that's all over. Yeah. So right now, what do you think? What's your favorite thing in jiu-jitsu right now? I know you've been watching a lot of stuff, a lot of content. I know you always do. But.
So recently, I've been going to half guard because all my other guards kind of play into half guard. But I need to go half guard on my left side, Chad.
Okay.
I think that's because I play X guard with my legs on the opponent's left leg. So the half guard entry that I'm going into
on their left.
Puts it on puts me on my other guards on my bad side, where I should just learn half guard on the bad side, so that
on the other side,
my good guards. Yeah.
Yep.
But half guard, deep half, and then pressure passing. I watched all the films from the Pittsburgh grappling series, and I pressure passed like everybody. I did hit a couple of X passes, but most of the time I was just cooking people. I'm like, well, I never even drill that.
I don't do that. Yeah, you were just giving back what you were getting.
Yeah, but I never do that in the gym. Like hardly ever do I pressure pass people in the gym. So I was like, oh, maybe I should take some time and work on that. So that's pretty much it. I was messing around lasso for a little bit, but I like half guard. I like coyote guard the best. I think it's the most athletic of the half guards.
For sure, yeah.
Like you can move a lot more on those half guards. I just started watching Tom DeBlas. I got into J2's account on BJJ Fanatics, and I was watching Deep Half Domination with Tom DeBlas.
Nice.
And that stuff's pretty cool too.
Yeah, and even if he filmed that's when he was older too. Now, I know he's older now, but I mean, he filmed that later on in his career. Like that wasn't like basically anyone can do it. Not that anyone can't, but like someone my age, being young, even in a younger journey, I could still pull some of that deep half stuff that Tom's doing, and he's kind of set it up that way, you know.
And he plays really low on the leg, like
he
some
does.
People play with. And I dig that because it takes the Kimura threat is still there, but it seems so much easier to get a sweep from where he's playing it than where like Marcelo, or not that Marcelo's ever wrong. You can never go down watching Marcelo Garcia.
No.
All right, so Chad,
go
Marcelo ahead. or Guy Mendez or Rafa Mendez?
I don't know. Somebody posed that question on Facebook a couple weeks ago. They said, what's your dream match? And that's mine. Rafa
versus
Marcelo in their prime.
Yeah.
I mean, Marcelo's bigger, probably by a weight class.
I was going to ask you, is it a full weight class?
I think, probably, because Marcelo competed at middleweight, I think 181, and actually might be 2 weight classes.
What Rafa?
Because I think Rafa was at 54. Because and then Guy, his younger brother, was the one down. He was at 41. So there's a pretty big difference. So but it'd be interesting. It would be interesting. Just like all sports we talk about, that prime thing, right? You wish you could make it happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't get to see it too often. I mean, if you even for us to take across any sport, I mean, there's very small sample size of seeing, what we consider GOAT,
the best
versus the next GOAT best type deal.
And I think you're going to not GOAT, obviously, but you're going to start getting some of that now with the youth that we have with Mika Galval being 18 years old and the Rotullo brothers being right there.
Yeah.
You're going to start seeing some crazy matches for a long time with those guys. Tynan Dalpra, these new dudes. Cole Abate, he's a freaking purple belt.
Purple belt.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
Yeah. We were talking at the gym. I don't remember who it was. And they said, I don't think we're going to see those guys. Like we used to see Marcelo or Hoffa won 5 titles in a row. They said, I don't think we're going to see that anymore. And I think you will at certain weight classes, depending on what they do. If they go an MMA route, because the Rotullos might go MMA just because there's money there now, especially with one.
I was going to say, with one paying out grappling now, and those paychecks are becoming more prevalent, bigger, obviously.
Well, and they have the audience. I mean, they're in Asia. I mean, they appreciate grappling.
Yeah, they do.
You remember watching those old prides where it would be dead silent when it was on the ground. And then if somebody just reversed it, they would applaud. Like they knew they were educated.
Right.
That's where we're just like, get up,
Punch him in the ass.
Punch him in the right. Get out of there. What are you doing?
Just stand up, dude. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. That's the meme of the century, is always like the guy's getting punched in his face and it's like, stand up. A coach yelling, stand up. It's like, you come stand up. Punch in the face right now.
Yeah.
Try not to die.
Not good.
That's really good. How many times did you fight in a cage, Tim?
No.
Once.
Oh, just once? Okay. I didn't know if you fought more than once.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got hired at Canton 2 months later.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
Got it out of the way.
Wow.
Yeah. I had my board interview like 2 weeks after the fight, I think. And they had known that I fought. And I ended up getting hired. I was very fortunate that I got hired. And like third day or so, Chief pulls me in the office, a battalion chief who was one of the guys that like I think really helped get me through and got me a job. He was the coordinator at Stark State for the Fire Academy. And he's like, hey, you still fighting? I was like, I'm kind of taking a break, see what happens. Like when I can. He's like, no, you gotta cut that. You gotta cut that shit out. And I'm like,
yeah.
Well, okay. He's like, well, listen, man. He's like, you only have this amount of sick time. So we would get like basically a day off a month. Okay, that's a 24-hour shift, a day off a month. And he's like, if you run out of those, the city's just going to terminate you. Okay, you're not in the union. So like once you run out of sick time, so God forbid you get hurt, you're just going to lose your job. And I'm like, yeah. So like we're going to chase a dream or become an adult.
Okay.
Chase a dream or become an adult. And
it
was probably time, So then I had to drop out of EMT school. And then I had to go back through EMT school, and then they put me through paramedic school. So I was on probation with no union protection for almost 2 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So like I was a probie for like 2 whole years where I didn't have any union protection, and I was only getting X amount of sick hours. So like towards the end of medic school was when I was starting to get ready for Chicago Open and stuff. And that was 2016. When I got out June 2016, and then I hit the streets, and I was a 6-day medic, and then your world kind of gets turned upside down because you went from this regular schedule, sleeping whenever you wanted to being up 24 hours on the ambulance, and that was a big adjustment.
I bet it was.
For sure.
Yeah, because like people in Canton don't sleep.
Like
they do not sleep.
Yeah.
Hey, there's always stories of, people going to Chicago or, LA or whatever to do your profession or be in your profession. But it's like, you can be in a city like Canton and still have plenty of work to be done. You know what I mean?
Canton's not the place most people think it is.
Right. No, exactly.
We got big city problems being a small city, and our manpower is so low. Like, if we drop a structure fire and you're on shift, you're going. And unless you're like the engine, like way on the outskirts of town, you're going to be there doing work. It's just, every fire that happens on your shift, especially being on a ladder truck, which I was stationed at, like you're going to get to go. And so you learn a lot, and it's dangerous and fun. And it's I'm going to miss being on shift. I was going to miss it.
I was going to ask you if you were going to miss it.
I absolutely will. You know, like fighting fire is a lot of fun. And we do it a lot more than everybody else around here, but we don't do it a lot. Like I would say, we had a good fire my last day on shift. The day prior to that, we probably had like a month and a half drop of fires. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
And everybody kind of gets on the edge. Everybody kind of gets at each other's throats a little bit. And like like everybody just starts picking on this shit like way more like quickly, right? And then you'll get done, you're like, oh, man, we need to get a fire.
We need one. Come on, guys, do something. That's great.
You know, like the medic was a blast. I had the most fun on the ambulance. The human interactions that we have with people. I mean, I could tell you stories until 3:00 in the morning about riding the ambulance.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
All your good stories come from the ambulance. The problem with the ambulance is you just don't sleep. So, like, when you're like a junior high riding 6 days a month, every other day you're going to work, you're just not getting to sleep. You know what I mean? You're up for almost the whole shift. You might catch a 3-hour nap in the middle of the night. And, you know, like on that 6th day you're on the ambulance that month, that's when your wick on your temper gets like this big, you know, and that's when you say stupid shit. You get called down to the chief's office and you're like, no, I didn't say that. That only happened once.
With you? Just once? No,
just once.
I'm kidding everybody out there listening. Him is a great guy. He never says anything. We have fun like this. It's all joking. So that's awesome. What was your inspiration to get into, you know, firework, you know, fireman's work and, you know, being a professional?
Actually, my grandpa Clapsaddle, he was on Marlboro Township for years. That's my mom's side. And, you know, so it kind of ran in the family. He always had the banners and stuff. And I remember going to look at the fire trucks. And after baseball, I honestly watched Rescue Me. And I was like, well, if that's the camaraderie these guys, if these guys have, like, if that's real. And, you know, I went to the academy and I was like, you know, I watched Rescue Me and they're like, yeah, it's pretty much like that firehouse. You know, and I was like, I've only ever been in locker rooms or dugouts and shit, you know, where we just talk shit on and have fun.
Yep.
Nobody takes it too serious. It's like, that's right up my alley. You know, all the other cool shit is icing on the cake. And that's really how I got into it. And everybody always asks me, like, why'd you become a fireman? And most times it's because I want to do the cool shit. You know, I want to be the guy bringing somebody out the window. I want to be the guy cutting somebody out of the car. You know, and if anybody tells you different, they're lying to you. Every guy that signs up or girl that signs up to be a fireman, it's to do the cool shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would imagine. Like,
well, I think you have to have that attitude, right? You can't take that shit lightly. I mean, you're saving people their lives.
It's just it's type A personality. It's just like being in a football locker room or in a wrestling locker room.
Right,
It's the same type of personalities, except you don't go wrestling in a match. You go help people, and that's I mean, it is really cool. It's a very rewarding job, and you know, it was sad to leave shift. Like, all my best buddies are on shift. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like guys that you go get beers with or whatever.
Yeah, they're your family. Yeah, they're your extended family.
We spend a third of our life with them. You know what I mean? At 24-hour chunks. And it's not like you work in a cubicle next to them. You got to deal with some real shit. Like, you just go through some bad stuff. They're your confidence, they're your strengths, they're your ear to bend. And everybody helps everybody get through stuff. You know? And
sure.
I will say.
You cut out in the last part. I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
I said, I'll miss that. You know?
Oh, yeah. You'll miss that for sure.
They're like brothers, you know.
No, they are for sure. And that's and it should be, you know. That's like, you know, I'm on the show, I've mentioned it before, and you heard me. Like, the gym is like that for me. It's like, this isn't, I mean, I've had, you know, I grew up rough, whatever, but I had like that. It was like, wow, like, these are my people. Like, these are my guys. Like, these are my brothers. Like, it came quick, and it was just like, wow, there's nothing I wouldn't do for these guys. And, you know, vice versa. Like, I felt that, it was like, oh, they actually care about you. Like, you know, and it was just different. It was like, and it's hard to explain to people outside of that. It's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I just can't explain it. Like, I don't know. It just for me personally, I mean, it's just a feeling. Like, it's just like, like, I can call on those guys anytime I want, that just to talk, bend an ear, whatever.
Well, like Tim was saying, with what he was, you know, spending that much time, you spend a lot of time with people, 24-hour shifts at a time.
Yeah, that's, I mean,
you know, that's crazy. But, you know, looking at our level on what at the time, like, I've seen Pete, we'll say on a minimum 2 days a week for the last 14 years.
Minimum. Yeah. Minimum
that's 2 days a week.
Right.
Yeah. So it's,
and that's just not seeing him.
Yeah.
That's also physically being in roles with him, touching him, like grabbing,
sure.
you know what I mean? So there is, it's like you see Tim.
I'm glad you changed touching to grabbing.
Touching to grabbing. Yes. Grappling.
Yeah, a little weird.
Pete, I know you're going to listen to this, so I'm glad I changed that as well. Don't take it out of me on the mat. But you're right. Like, I'm a desk jockey, so I sit at desk all the time. So if I go to the office, it's just across from guys, like I care about them, but it's different. Like, it didn't change for me from the pandemic. Like, I work from home now and I always will. It's like, oh, hey guys, how you doing? But it wasn't like, it wasn't huge impact. Like this is going to be a big change for you in terms of like, your brothers are still there, but it's going to be a little bit different for you to adjust. And
there's 6 other inspectors, right? And they all have, it's the same bond.
The same bond
that we had on shift, because they were us before they were in this position.
Sure.
So it kind of carries over, and everybody there, like, they work together. And like, we already, in my first week, we got to do some weird stuff, investigating. Like, I was helping with an arson, and there was this like tire ring that they were dumping tires illegally. So like, we're gonna try to get EPA involved in all this stuff. But we found the truck that was dumping, like, just really shit. So like, you kind of get to be like a detective now. Yeah. And I was really looking forward to that, just to be able to use like my brain and critical thinking to do something other than what we were doing or what I was doing. Yeah. So like, it took to me already, and like, it's just cool, It'll be fun. It'll be a different chapter, it'll be different kind of work, but I think it'll be for the best.
It's going to be good for you and your career and
your family life.
Your family.
We talked about that, man. That's huge.
Yeah. I'm home.
That is
I'm
huge.
Home right now.
Right.
Right. You wouldn't be home, right?
Right.
It's funny, when Tim knew he was getting this, we had to make that decision on that tournament you had coming up, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, we both knew the answer, but we didn't want to verbalize it. And Tim's like, well, I'm going to talk to my dad tomorrow. And you can tell him what your dad said to him.
So my dad doesn't mention, and I'm pretty sure that's where I get it from. But I was explaining to him, the process and how important Apata was. And he's like, so what's the problem? I said, well, I got to make it like every minute class. I'm worried that if I get hurt, not only is it going to kind of fuck my career, but it also really hurts the department, because I was chosen over other people. And if I make it through 3 weeks of Apata, then they're not going to be able to start week 3 in, right, to find my replacement. Yeah. So not only do I put myself in a bind and basically eliminate myself from any special duties ever again, but I also just put the department in a bind, because now they're going to be 6 months behind on getting somebody into Apata. So he's like, well, that seems pretty stupid, Tim. I think you should just not do the tournament. I'm like, yeah. He's like, no, dude, you're too old to be doing dumb shit. So, yeah, good point, man. I don't really have a pocket piston.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's really there's no like comment to come back. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no argument. There's no debating. It's kind of like, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, you're right.
Which is good. I mean, I to hear the news, and I'm super proud of you. And I know, we've only known each other for a short period of time, but I, kind of, gather to your, like liking and, care about you and stuff like that. Like I said earlier. So I think it's the right decision too, man. Like, don't do stupid stuff. This is your livelihood. Yeah. And trust me, jiu-jitsu is not going away.
No, it won't. And that, like, I wanted to compete, and I'm like, God, because like when I put in for FBB, the guys in FBB were like, well, it might, like, they might post a job in 2 months. They might post a job in 6 months. We don't know.
Sure.
The fire department, things either go really fast or things go really slow.
Yeah.
Or they go really slow for a minute and then all of a sudden happen right away. But this one happened right away. And I'm like, whoa, it's too big of an opportunity to pass up.
Yeah. Because I think we talked about it. We talked about you doing this a couple months ago, and you're like, man, it could take a while.
Yeah.
To happen that quick.
It was kind of shocking. I had an interview on Tuesday a couple weeks ago, and I was appointed on that Friday. So, I mean, I'm very grateful. I lucked into the fire department.
Yeah, things happen for a reason.
Yeah. Don't say luck. We say it on this show to people all the time, man. Don't say luck. Like, you are where you're supposed to be because you were meant to be there. Like, we tell people, like, you're serving that purpose, man. And like, you belong where you're at.
Well, from day one, I kept telling Tim, like, you're going to get this spot, and he got it. And he's like, how did you know? Like, you just know, people are meant to do certain things, and, other people can see that, not just us too,
Sure. No one actually can at all. Just Chad and I.
Just
So tell your friends. Tell your friends out there.
You guys got the crystal ball.
Listen to the show. We'll tell you what's going to happen. That's why we named the show Limitless.
Yeah. There you go.
That's the point.
And actually,
where's Bradley Cooper at?
Right. It's kind of funny because
I'll make sure he plays me in the movie.
That's actually really good.
Yeah.
So you want to hit him with your famous, hit him with your famous.
So you got to tell me, man, because I always hear great stories and stuff, and you've had an opportunity to be around him. We talked about him earlier. What impact and what did he mean to you, Mr. Steve Hyman?
So, I met Hyman a few years after Uncle Jake had passed, right?
Okay.
So, like, Uncle Jake was huge in my life. I was always around, always gave great advice. Never put he always put everybody else first, right? Like, I never heard Uncle Jake talk bad about somebody. I never heard anything but good, and he made you feel good every time you was around him. And so, like, when he had passed, I'd lost that male figure in my life. Not that, like, my dad's my best friend and I love him to death, but like, I've always had like two people that were like that I could trust with anything. And then I started coming to the East Coast a couple years, and maybe a year after Uncle Jake had passed, and I met Mr. Hyman. And Shane's like, no, he's cool. You'll like him and all this stuff. And like, he's just a guy that's really hard not to fall in love with, right? You walk in the room, he makes you feel like $1 million every time. Didn't matter what he was going through. Never talked about that he was sick. I didn't even know he was sick for like the first 6 months that I was training.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he just never brought it up. Never happened. And every time I walked in, like, oh, Tim, you look great. How you doing? How's this going? Like, it was always just around you. It was never about him or anything else. It just, he made you feel like you walked on water. And he was a selfless human being. And God, he's just a great dude. Like, I miss watching him interact with other people. That's what I miss most.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because it's something that you watch and you're like, man, I hope that I can be like that to people one day. You know, like, he's the guy you want to be, because he walks in and everybody just lights up. Like, turns everybody's lights on as soon as he walks in the room. And people who have that ability are just the rarest of people. They're rarest of people. And especially now, they're dwindling even more nowadays.
Even more, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. You know, and
to come across a selfless person, you want to attach yourself to that person. You want that person to be part of your life. And as I've said before, like, that person sits at your table. Like, I always use the metaphor, like, there are people that sit at your table. There are people that don't sit at your table, and I don't want them sitting at my table. You know what I mean? But there are people that I want there, and those type of people, like, I want selfless people that are going to challenge me and push me, but love me at the same time, and they're never going to quit on me. You know, and that's that sounds to me, that's what Mr. Hyman, to both of you guys, to you, Chaddy, and yourself, and this is the stories that I hear a lot. You know, that he lit the room up. You know,
he did.
Which I tell everybody this that have interactions with him. Chad, I've told him, Tim, I'm telling you too. It's a East Coast is what it is now because of guys like you, for guys like me to come in, because I see that. A few weeks ago or whatever it was, to give you a prime example, I walked in, did not want to be there. You were there and you were like, Big T. And like, you gave me a hug. And then I was like, it's cool. Like, I need to be here. Like, there are people that need me here, want me here, whatever. And I feel that. So I can tell that torch and those transitions have passed down from a great man onto men that are going to keep passing that. And that's what I want to be for people that come there all the time. So always know that you've taken that point and that stuff from him. I tell Chad that all the time, man. It's important that we project this to other people. You know, it's like pay it forward. Chad says it all the time. Yeah. Right, Chad?
Yes, sir.
Pay it forward.
Timmy's got you got to tell your Hindman when you sparred with him, when he was, you're like, Checking your kicks.
Oh yeah. So
which I have on video if you want to see it. One of them.
Like he was like a wizard, right? Like he taught me how to throw leg kicks, and he was just laying his leg on top of my quad for like, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes. And my leg was sore for a good week, you know? So then one day he comes in, he's like, hey, I'm gonna be up. And he was always late, right? But you never cared. So I was just sitting in the parking lot, like in my car. And he originally wanted to go get lunch. And it's like well past lunch now. And he's like, he's like, nah, man, let's just go in here and train. It's like, all right, cool. So we get in there. He's like, let's spar. I'm like, okay. So he's like, just don't hit me here, because he had a port here, right? He's like, if you hit me here and like I start bleeding out, he's like, I won't make it. Yeah. Like, I'll bleed out before the EMTs get here. And I'm like, well, now I don't know if I'm so psyched about this. He's like, no, it'll be fine.
After he tells you.
Just try not to hit it. Right? And then he just would blast you with leg kicks. And like most of the time he didn't put on shins, right? Like, which I just thought maybe like we would go like pretty light. Like here and there he'd put on shins. But if he put on shins, it was much worse.
Yeah, it was way worse because he knew he was kicking hard.
Yeah. And like he'd light you up with like a leg kick. Like, son of a bitch. And then he covered ground so well. And like his understanding of range was so good. Like he just piece you apart from across the room. And you're like, how the hell is this dude hitting me? Like I had no idea. That was a fun one. And then the day he's like, Tim, you're not very tall, which I was like, yeah, nobody's ever accused me of that, you know? And so he's like, if you're going to fight at 70, you gotta understand how to dirty box, and you got to understand how to stay in the pocket and then get out of the pocket before you get hit. So he's like, what you want to do, he's just like, if I throw a punch, use me retracting my arm to get into the pocket. And he's like, you want to get like 2 or 3 good shots before you get out, because you might have, like, there might be another punch coming, right? So you might time the first one, you might have to parry the second one, but then once you're inside, you got to dig the body. I'm like, okay. So he's like, I don't want you to like thud the body. So he's like ripping his knuckles across my abdomen, right? But he doesn't have gloves on. And he's just laying into me. And I'm like, wincing. I'm like, oh yeah, I got it. And I'm like, I was like, dude, can we dial these back a little bit? Like, I get it. And then the Achilles kick was another good one. He's like, fuck that. He's like, if somebody starts checking your kicks, he's like, I'll show you a good counter to that. I'm like, okay. So he gets the crash pad out, puts it behind me. I'm like, oh, this isn't good. He's like, all right. He's like, I want to check my kick. So I check, and he's like, all right, check it out. I'm checking. He's like, all right, now this one. He's like, I'm gonna show you. He's like, you want to step across. He's like, you want to kick him right in the back of the leg. I was like, oh, like the Achilles. He's like, yeah, that's the sweet spot. Okay, so I go. He throws the kick. I go to check it. And he feinted the leg kick, and then like stepped in and just like pushed his arm across like on my far shoulder and kicked the shit out of my Achilles and swept me, right. And I was like, I'm good. I got it. He's like, no, one more time, Tim. I'm like, no, please no.
He was, and obviously he did kick hard, but I think he was so precise that he didn't realize how hard he was hitting you.
No, and that was like when you were showing me the leg kicks. He's like, you want to find there's a seam in there where like the quad meets, right, and then there's the lateral one. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. The vastus lateralis in the quadricep meet. And he's like, you want to find that seam. He's like, that's the sweet spot, and he found it like every time. Because his thing was to bring the kick up and then down. Yeah, like it's not a lateral kick; it's an up and then a downward angle. Yep. And his shins are made of vibranium or something.
It's like chopping down a tree too. Like that kick is that it's that axe kick. It's that up and you're down. You're not axe as in what people used to call it, but
right.
That motion.
That motion. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just much.
He was so good at teaching stuff too.
Yeah.
Like, he would do it in a way, even if you messed up, you felt like you did it right. Because he would tell you that like, oh, that was perfect. That was really good. That was awesome. And it was like, at the end of it, he'd be like, no, it's just, I don't even know how he worded it to make it sound like you still did it right, but you could get better at it. He'd tell you all the things that you did right. He's like, no, let's just focus on this one thing. And like, he never told you that you did it wrong. But you just divert your focus like one part.
Yeah. To this day, we have that. We tell our instructors in the karate program, it's praise, correct, praise. Like tell them what they did right, correct them a little bit, and then you end it with more praise. And then that resonates way better than saying, hey, dipshit, what are you doing? Like, which he probably did that too at some points. He would get a little more blunt sometimes, but that, this makes you feel like, oh yeah, I got this.
Yep.
That's awesome. Good.
Yeah.
Good. He was a good dude, man. I hear great stories. That's why I ask if I have an opportunity to ask about him, so I can even, if I can learn something from someone that's been touched by him, then I can pay that forward and try to give it to somebody else. So thanks to him for, sharing that stuff. I appreciate it, dude.
Dude, he said the nicest things to me. God, Jesus. I remember one day, it was right before I got hired again. And I had just had my fight or whatever. And he was like, so you're pretty serious about this fire job? And I was like, well, I mean, the retirement's good. The benefits are great. Like, I can't pass it up. And he's like, well, I've never cornered anybody in the UFC, right? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, if we keep doing this, he's like, I think I'd like to climb that mountaintop with you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I won one fight. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm lit up like the ball drop on New Year's Eve, just glowing.
Let's go.
He's like, no. He's like, this is probably for the best.
He did coach in the very last Pride, though.
Yep.
With Butterbean.
Hey, buddy.
That's right.
So,
hey.
This is Baker. You say hi?
Hi, Baker. How are you, bud?
What's up, dude?
He's like, what?
I'll be down in a minute, buddy. Oh, there's Bodie.
Yeah, good. That's good. Totally. Yeah. We've had others that have come in and sat down. Christian Woodmancy, his daughter, came in and sat down with us and talked for a minute. It's all good, brother. This is a family show. When our guests are allowed to bring anybody on they want.
You might have to use the bleep button.
Right. Yeah. That would be, yeah.
Are you waving? You can't
Hi.
see it. You gotta get your hand right here.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, Baker. How are you, bud? Hi. How are you?
That's his black eye from wrestling.
I was going to ask you. I was like, you got a shiner. That's all right.
Yeah. He was wrestling with his 8-year-old nephew, the Ottoman. Oh, yeah, his cousin. Sorry.
Nice.
And the Ottoman jumped out and got him home.
It happens, man. It's all right. You'll have many more of those if you keep wrestling. Yeah. Just ask your dad.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of them may not be intentional. Right. That's just flying knee from somewhere. You're like, oh no. That's good. Awesome, dude. Well, hey man, we're not going to keep you any longer. We took an hour of your life that you're not getting back.
Hey, I appreciate being on, guys. This is cool. Really cool.
Thanks for coming on. We appreciate you very much, man. Keep after the job, and we'll see you at the gym. Keep safe, and
I'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
You gonna be able to train with that new tattoo, Chad?
Probably we'll see. We'll see. I've gotten a little braver the more I've gotten. Like my first tattoo, I didn't roll for a week. And I was like, I can't.
It's just sore, right?
Yeah. It's really sore right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
mine are all depending on where they're at. Like when I got this, started to rework and it was all done, this whole part, I rolled right away, instantly, because it was up here and it didn't bother me. It just burnt. Yeah. So I was like, I'm good. Yeah, but down around my wrist and, when I got down around and obviously my hand, it was like, no, I got this thing's got to
I don't know why when I went today thinking this little bit here was going to be the easiest, it was probably the most sensitive.
Dude, I hated my elbow.
That bone part right there, man. Yes.
I didn't mind the elbow. Elbow didn't bother me too much. Yeah.
The best is Tim, our tattoo guy, because Chad and I go to the same. Jason's great. And he'll be like, so it's going to be a little pinchy.
Yeah, that's all he says. His famous word.
Hey, it's going to be a little pinchy. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, yeah.
And he says it so nicely.
Must be attached to somewhere right here on my head. On my elbow. I could feel it in my skull and also to my left nipple. Because my left nipple was like a diamond in an ice storm. I mean, it could have cut glass.
Man,
that's still my most sensitive spot that I have. I have a dragon that comes across, and right there, I was like, Oh my gosh. I was like, that's the worst. I thought it was going to explode off my chest. That's all. My buddies were there laughing at me. And I was like, it's coming off, dude. Like, there's no way this should be happening. But
like Steve Carell in the 40-year-old virgin.
Oh, yes. Sweet. Hey, do you want to shout out anything? Any information you would want to give out to anybody, or, you know, if you want anyone to follow you on any kind of social media platforms or whatever, we always ask everybody.
Super active on social media, but you can follow me at timstinsonjr on Instagram. That's it. I'm on Facebook, and yeah, I post every once in a while, just some cool stuff. Mostly my wife and kids, and some jiu-jitsu here and there.
Awesome, very cool.
Back in the logs, it's like weightlifting and some motorcycle stuff, and yeah, it's pretty eclectic.
Yeah, very.
It's all right. If anyone that does BJJ doesn't say they're eclectic in some way, they're lying.
Yeah,
we all are.
Yep. Yeah, sure we are.
Yeah. All right, brother. Take care, man. Cool, appreciate you. God bless you guys and the family.
Yep.
We'll see you. All right.
We'll see you soon.
All right. Later.
Later.